Hi, I'm Rick Fussell and welcome back to the Ingrain Workshop. In today's video, I'm going to be restoring my 1995 drill press. This drill press is over 30 years old. It's a heavy-duty 16-speed drill press. That's coming up next here at the Ingrain Workshop. So this is my floor-mounted drill press. It's from the mid-90s. I purchased it, I think, at Big Lots. It served its purpose well. It's over 30 years old. There are no issues. There is some rust on it. So I'm going to break it down, clean it, do a little maintenance on it. This table is a drill press table that I built around 2004, so it's over 20 years old, and it needs to be replaced badly. It's got some dings, the fence is all chewed up from the drill press collar. So once I break down the drill press, clean it, do the maintenance on it, then I'm going to build a new table for it. So that was the past Rick, the one who promised a fancy new drill press table and fence. He didn't exactly lie, he just didn't know what future Rick was about to find. Once I started peeling back this machine, it turned into a full-on restoration. This video isn't a table build, it's a deep dive. We're taking this press apart, removing the rust, replacing the belts, repainting, and yes, swapping out every bearing, all 8 of them. First things first, always unplug the machine before you start. I'll begin by removing the 2 wing nuts that hold the drill press table in place, and take off the table and fence. Next, I'll unscrew the feed handles from the head assembly. Then I'll loosen the belt tensioning handle and remove the 2 V-belts. Using a hex key, I'll remove the 2 locking screws that secure the drill head to the column and then lift the head off. Switching to a smaller hex key, I'll remove the column collar. Then with a Phillips head screwdriver, I'll take out the crank. Next, I'll remove the work table locking handle and slide the work table off. After that, I'll pull out the 90-degree set screw and using a 3/4 inch wrench, I'll remove the bolt and table holder. You can see the holes where the 90-degree set screw goes, one on the table holder and the other one on the table support. After lubricating the column, I'll loosen the table support locking ring and remove both the table support and rack from the column. With a hex key, I'll loosen the set screws on the column holder and remove the column itself. Finally, using a 9/16 wrench and socket, I'll take out the 4 bolts holding the column holder to the base and remove the column holder. Next, I'll turn my attention to the head assembly. I'll start by removing the 4 Phillips head screws that hold the switch housing in place. Then I'll disconnect the black hot and white neutral wires on the switch, both from the motor side and the outlet side. With a Phillips head screwdriver, I'll remove the cord holder from the head. Now I'll take off the arbor and chuck, and since I don't have a wedge key, I'll use a rubber mallet to give it a few gentle taps. Works just fine. Next, I'll pull out the idle bracket and pulley. Now I can remove the 2 Phillips head grounding screws that come through the pulley cover. Using a pulley puller, I'll remove the spindle pulley from the spindle shaft. Then I'll remove the 2 nuts from the gear shaft and take off the spring cap. Be careful here, that spring is under tension and it will bite if you're not careful. Pull it out slowly and let the tension release before you take the cap all the way off. From the opposite side of the head, I'll remove the gear shaft, the scale label ring, and the handle holder. At this point, you should be able to lift the head and the quill and spindle will come right out. Next, I'll unscrew the cylinder pin and the 2 head column set screws. Using a 9/16 inch wrench, I'll remove the 4 motor mount nuts and bolts. Each one has 2 washers and a lock washer. With the motor off the head, I can start removing the motor adjustment lever. Set screw and a 1/4 inch bolt on top of that need to come out first. Once those are out, the belt tension adjustment handle and lever should slide right out. Now, I didn't catch this next part on video, but there are 2 ball bearings that need to come out from the spindle end of the head. There's a retaining ring that comes out first, then using a 1 1/4 inch socket and extension, I gently tap the bearings out. There's also a spacer between them. Next, I'll remove the 2 nuts that hold the motor base to the motor support bars and slide those bars out from the head. Using the pulley puller again, I'll remove the motor pulley from the shaft. With a Phillips head screwdriver, I'll take out the 3 screws holding the motor fan cover, then switch to a 5/16 inch nut driver to remove the 4 nuts and bolts securing the motor end shield to the motor frame. Once those are out, I'll use the pulley puller to remove the motor end shield, and to my surprise, I found an old dirt dauber nest tucked in there. Guess he thought it was rent-free housing. Anyway, he got deported. Finally, I'll use a bearing puller to remove the ball bearing from the motor shaft. Now I can remove the fan from the other end of the motor shaft. It's just plastic, so I'll use a flathead screwdriver and apply gentle, even pressure, working my way around and rotating the fan as I go. That way I don't accidentally crack it. The fan only fits on the shaft one way, thanks to that flat slot on top of the shaft, so it's easy to line up when we put it back together later. Next, using a rubber mallet and a few light taps, I'll remove the motor shaft itself. On the fan end of the shaft, there's one more ball bearing, and I'll pull that off using the bearing puller. So now with all the parts disassembled, and I kind of kept them in the order in which they came apart, I'm going to be using this Evapo-Rust, and I'm going to go ahead and take the rust off the parts prior to painting. And the most important one here is the shaft. I'm going to really work on that. I've got a piece of 4-inch PVC pipe that I'm going to put this in, and then I'm going to add the Evapo-Rust, let it sit for a day, then take it out, clean it up, see if I can get the chrome to shine back up and really clean that up. The rest of the pieces I will put in the Evapo-Rust and let it work on the rust. And then I'm going to take and spray paint everything black, even the body of the drill press, which is now red. I'm going to go ahead and degrease that, get all the rust off of it, and then paint it jet black like everything else. So that's what I'm going to do next. To tackle the rust on the column, I glued a cap on one end of a 4-inch piece of PVC pipe and dropped the drill press column right in. Then I filled the tube with Evapo-Rust and let it soak for about 24 hours. After soaking, I pulled it out and hit it with a wire wheel, some steel wool, and even rubbed it down with a little aluminum foil. It really helps bring back that shine. I repeated the same process for all the smaller chrome parts, the handles, the base, anywhere where there was chrome or exposed cast iron. Once everything was cleaned up and degreased, I took it all outside, laid down 2 coats of flat black spray paint, taping off any areas that had exposed cast iron. Nothing fancy, just clean, simple, and tough enough to handle years of shop abuse. So up to this point, I have taken the complete drill press apart. I took all the parts and soaked them in this Evapo-Rust. And this stuff is reusable, so once you use it, you can drain it, filter it, and drain it back into the can and use it again. And I basically gave all the parts a bath. It recommends leaving them in the solution for about 12 to 24 hours, which is what I did on most of the rusted parts. Then once I got them out of the Evapo-Rust bath, then I just took and hit them with a wire wheel and some 4/0 steel wool just to sand off any remaining rust that might have been on there. So I sealed all the exposed cast iron with WD-40's fast drying silicone spray. So it dries fast and then it waterproofs all the exposed cast iron. With the chrome parts, once they were soaked in the rust solution and cleaned up with steel wool, then I took some aluminum foil and just rubbed it over the chrome, and that seemed to help bring back the life of the chrome as well. So now with everything cleaned, all the rust removed, I went outside, painted everything jet black, just a flat black rattle can spray paint, and now I'm ready to install all the parts back together. So just to go over all the parts, I have the pulley housing right here. I have the floor base. Then I have the column stand, which mounts to the floor base. In the background, I have the table, and as you can see, all the rust has been removed from the table, and that's been lubricated with the silicone WD-40, and then I've got the actual body of the drill press painted as well, and then all the other miscellaneous parts, the quill, the spindle, the gear. You can see here the column that was severely rusted, and that again took about a 24-hour bath in the Evapo-Rust solution, and then I hit it with the wire wheel, some 4/0 steel wool, and then I applied the silicone spray to that. I also went and bought new bearings, so all the bearings are going to be replaced, and then these are the pulleys and then the motor, and I'm also replacing the pulley that goes on the motor shaft. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So let's go ahead and start putting this drill press back together. Now it's time to start putting this drill press back together from the ground up. I'll begin by mounting the column holder onto the base using the 4 9/16" bolts. Next, I'll add a little grease to the worm gear for the table support, then reinstall the gear back onto the support. The worm gear has a flat section on the shaft. That's where the crank and set screw will go. With a hex wrench, I'll install the 2 set screws into the column holder. Insert the column and snug them down. Now I'll reinstall the locking handle on the table support, and with that in place, I can slide the rack and table support assembly onto the column. The bottom of the rack fits right into the top of the column holder. Then I'll install the column collar at the top and tighten the set screw. At this point, the table support and rack should rotate freely, a full 360 degrees around the column. Next, I'll install the set screw and bolt through the table holder, mount it to the table support, and make sure it's level. Then I'll mount the work table itself and tighten it with the locking handle, double checking for level again. Now I can turn my attention back to the drill head. I'll start by installing the new ball bearings on the spindle side of the head. These bearings are 6005-2RS/C2. And I'll leave links to them and all the other bearings in the video description. First, I'll insert the retaining ring on the inside of the head. It's a little hard to see on camera, but there is a groove on the inside that sets the depth of the first bearing. Using a 1 1/4 inch socket, a wooden dowel, and a hammer, I gently tap the first bearing into place. Before installing the second bearing, I'll fill the space around the spacer with grease and then tap the second bearing in the same way. A second retaining ring goes on this side to hold both bearings in position. Now moving over to the quill. There's a rubber washer that fits over it. The spindle shaft uses 2 different bearings. The bottom bearing is the same as the others, 6005-2RS/C2, and the top bearing is a size 6202-2RS. I'll install the bottom bearing first using my vise and a rubber mallet. Then I'll install the second bearing, the top bearing, into the quill and slide the spindle into place. The bottom bearing sets directly against the inside of the quill, so no retaining ring is needed there. But the top bearing does require one, and there's a groove on the spindle that locks it in perfectly. Now the quill and spindle assembly can go back into the drill head. I'll hit it with a little WD-40 silicone spray to keep things nicely lubricated. Make sure the groove on the outside of the quill faces the tension spring side of the head. That's important. Later we'll install a set screw through the head that rides in that groove, keeping the quill aligned and giving it some lateral support. With the quill and spindle installed, I'll move on to the handle holder, gear shaft, and scale label ring. I pre-greased the gear shaft before sliding it in. On the opposite side of the head, I'll install the tension spring and spring cap. I've already got the spring seated inside the cap. The end of that spring slides through a slot in the gear shaft. There are locking tabs on the spring cover and a notch on the head. Line those up, then rotate the spring cap 1 full turn counterclockwise to add the right amount of tension. Before fully tensioning the spring, thread 1 nut onto the gear shaft. Not too tight, you'll still need to rotate the spring cover. Once the spring is tensioned properly, install the second nut to lock it down. Now I'll thread in one of the handles just to test the spindle tension and motion. If the motion feels too loose or too tight, I'll fine-tune it by adjusting the gear shaft nuts. Next, I'll install the set screw for the quill. The end of that screw is rectangular and it rides in the groove on the outside of the quill. That's what keeps it aligned and gives it side support. There's a directional slot on the other end of the screw so you can line it up perfectly with the groove. Once it's aligned and has the right amount of tension, I'll tighten the nut. You'll need a flathead screwdriver to hold the screw steady while tightening the nut so nothing moves out of alignment. Next, I'll install the motor support bars. Take note, they're not identical. One of them has an indentation for the adjusting lever to ride in, and that one goes on the handle side of the head. Once that motor support bar is in place, I can slide the adjusting lever and the belt tension adjusting handle onto the blade. I'll line up the set screw and the adjusting lever with the flat portion of the tension handle and tighten it down. Then I'll install the other motor support bar. Now I'll thread on the motor support bar locking screw on each side of the head. With that done, I can install the motor base onto the support bars and fasten it down with the nuts and lock washers. Next up are the idle pulley bearings. These use 6202-2RS bearings, the same as before, and I'll install them using a wooden dowel and a hammer just like the others. Once the bearings are seated, I'll install the retaining ring to hold them in place and mount the pulley onto the idle bracket. With the fan reinstalled on the motor, I can bolt the motor end shield back to the motor frame using the 4 bolts, then reinstall the fan cover. Now I'll mount the motor back onto the base using the 4 motor mount nuts and bolts. Time to take care of the wiring. I'll reconnect the hot, neutral, and ground wires from both the outlet and the motor back to the switch, then reinstall the switch housing. After that, I'll screw the 2 ground wires back onto the drill head and clean things up by reattaching the cord holder. Next, I'll install the 4 rubber washers or vibration isolators onto the head. Then I'll attach the pulley cover with the 4 Phillips head screws. Now for the pulleys. I'll start with the motor pulley. It's got a set screw at the bottom, so it needs to line up with the flat spot on the motor shaft. A few soft taps with a rubber mallet seats it nicely. Then I'll tighten the set screw with the hex key. The idle pulley goes on next. That one just slides on by hand. Finally, I'll install the spindle pulley the same way as the motor pulley. The only difference is the spindle pulley has a groove that needs to align with the spindle. Once it's lined up, a few light taps seat it perfectly. Now I can reinstall both belts and set them to the desired speed. With that done, it's time for the moment we've been building toward, reinstalling the drill head onto the column. I'll slide it into place and tighten the 2 set screws. Then I'll tension the belts and lastly reinstall the 3 handles, the arbor, and the chuck. And just like that, this drill press is back together and ready to go. Well, that's going to wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope this video helps you out if you're in need to refurbish or restore your drill press. Just keep in mind this is a heavy-duty 16-speed drill press. There's really no manufacturer. It's from China, so it's not a Delta or a Jet. It's just strictly a heavy-duty 16-speed drill press. If you're new to the channel and you like DIY and woodworking projects, then I highly recommend that you hit that subscribe button. It's free and painless, and I'd also ask that you ring that bell icon. That way you can be notified of all our upcoming videos. To all my existing subscribers, I really appreciate all the support you give this channel. Now I'll leave links in the video description below to all the different bearings that I replaced and the belts, and that's one way you can support the channel. And if you're really feeling generous, you can always leave us a super thanks. We greatly appreciate it. I'm Rick with the Ingrain Workshop. Until next time, have a wonderful day and God bless.